Chris? Chris?
Sir.
I didn't get the email. Wait, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, wait. I see it now. I'm sorry.
Worldwide, faith-based, community-driven streaming media. This is The Voice
I can't
17.
see it. I don't know if.
The Allison Hill District of
Okay, we're going
Harrisburg,
live now,
Pennsylvania.
Rich.
Now broadcasting community radio
Okay, I can't see it.
and community television from Studio B on The Voice 17.com.
All right, let's roll.
Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to the Richard James Show on 17104, The Voice.
We are here tonight because time, love, tenderness created human life. We are small, large, infinite because our Creator deemed it to be so. Time, love, tenderness brought us together to share, to grow, to believe. The simple truth is we were meant to be here. It was love in all of its splendor that saved our souls from dying. Time, love, tenderness, the universe is ours. We will do God's will. We will share with sensitivity the sweet feast from the Creator. Let our pens be the tool. Let our hearts hang high, the symbols of love upon the walls of time. We are here because of the Creator. One of my poems, so happy to have you here again for the Richard James Show. You know, a few weeks ago, we lifted up the Honorable Stephen R. Reed, who personally I consider one of our greatest mayors. A lot of people might disagree with me. A lot of people have personal animosity. They hate on one end, they love on the other end, but I happen to think a lot of the young man. But when I look at our situation, when I say our, I'm talking about African Americans, because I indeed consider all people our own. One individual stands out among the others, and that is an African American female by the name of Linda Thompson. We raise up Linda Thompson today. Briefly, the life and legacy of a great woman. Well, you might say, oh, a great woman? She wasn't reelected. It's not a question of whether or not she was reelected. A lot of great people did not get a second term. Jimmy Carter did not get a second term. George Bush did not get a second term. There are great men who had great administrations, great women who have had great administration that did not get a second term. But I'm raising up Linda Thompson. She was a first. She was the first African American to become mayor of the city of Harrisburg. She was the first woman, a 200-year-old city, the first woman to become mayor of the city of Harrisburg. They say Harrisburg is the 13th largest city in the state of Pennsylvania. Over 49,000 individuals live in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. When people talk about native of a particular area or a particular city, they mean that person came basically and was born in that particular city. Linda is a native of the city of Harrisburg. No question about it. She grew up in uptown Harrisburg. Her father was a very well-known and distinguished jazz musician. She came into prominence early in her life. She's also a graduate, a distinguished graduate of Howard University. very articulate, very intelligent, very capable. She took on an impossible task. We had an incumbent mayor who had served 7 terms and who had been honored throughout the nation as being one of the most uh, capable and accomplished mayors. And she took him on. And when I saw that, back in the day, I was here. I said, if Steve Reed is not careful, and if he takes this election for granted, the beautiful and hard work ethic of Linda Thompson will overcome it. And she did. She did overcome it. And she was elected mayor of the city of Harrisburg. But that was not the beginning for Linda Thompson in terms of her accomplishments in public service. She had already won an election to city council and then became the spokesperson for city council. She was the speaker. She was the top person for the Harrisburg City Council prior to becoming and being elected to the position of mayor, which means she had the opportunity. She wasn't a novice. She didn't come in off the street. She had an opportunity to deal with multiple issues that city council had already been dealing with. The incinerator was one. Mayor Reed had some very, very personal projects that they put together, the Civil War Museum, trying to make Harrisburg a notable stop for tourists. Harrisburg is the capital of the state of Pennsylvania. It is the capital. And it has at least a 40% African-American population. I remember in Harrisburg, where if you did not know someone politically, you would not be able to get a job. So Harrisburgers have gone through a lot. They went through the tearing down of an area of African-American community to build the capital. That happened. And of course, Linda's family was here for that occasion. So Linda Thompson became mayor of the city of Harrisburg. Linda has a brother. She has a brother that got in trouble with the law. Her brother was accused of, I think it was murder, a capital punishment crime. Spent many, many years in prison. I think possibly, and I'm guessing approximately 29 years in prison. And he had one person, if not many persons, but one very distinct person that believed in him, and that was Linda Thompson. Linda Thompson introduced us to Johnnie Cochran. Anybody remember Johnnie Cochran? Johnnie Cochran was the lead attorney on the O.J. Simpson case. Linda brought Johnnie Cochran to Harrisburg to help her brother. Linda put forth every effort that she could to help her brother. And guess what? Her brother was released from prison after spending 29 years because of the hard work and diligence of Linda Thompson. So we're raising up the legacy of one of Harrisburg's most distinguished mayors. And she didn't walk in the gate, as I said, with no knowledge, no information, no understanding of public life. When she was elected to the position of mayor, having already served as a council person, having also already served as the chairman of the Harrisburg City Council, she would face many, many, many problems. One of the problems that she faced was receivership, having the state consider putting the city of Harrisburg under its control. She had to deal with that issue. The incinerator was another major issue that she had to deal with. There were things that Linda had to deal with that other mayors would not have to deal with in bulk, but she did. Now, I personally want to disclose that I know Linda Thompson. When I met this young lady, wonderful, friendly young lady, she was working for the Harrisburg Urban League. You remember the Harrisburg Urban League that was destroyed by politicians? The Harrisburg Urban League, and we became friends. We worked together. And at the time, when she was working for the Urban League, I was working for the Hill Community Center and running an HIV/AIDS education program. During that particular period of time, I was called upon by Robert P. Casey, who was currently a United States Senator, to come to work for him. And I came to work for Robert B. Casey. And during that period of time, I also had a radio broadcast that Robert B. Casey, they liked me to remain politically neutral. So I had to give up that broadcast. And what I did was turn that broadcast over to the Urban League, and they in turn turned it over to Linda Thompson. So for many years, not only was she involved in politics, but she was involved in broadcasting, Clear Channel. She was there for many, 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 many years and did a wonderful job. Came back and I interviewed her several times, and I left there and eventually I wound up at The Rock, 1710, and then I interviewed Linda at The Rock. But Linda, and then I got to know her. I know her personality. I know her brilliance. I know the things that she accomplished. And I can remember that Linda was well known, well liked, and had already been involved in things before she got directly involved and considerably involved in the political arena. One other issue, I did one other thing, if you don't mind, just me getting a little bit personal, because I like Linda and I've had some positive feedback with Linda. But Linda, there used to be a movie that came out years ago starring Denzel Washington. The movie was entitled The Great Debate. And the movie centered around a small African-American college, I think it was in Texas, small African-American colleges, who had a debate team. And this debate team made national prominence by going and participating in a well-publicized debate with Harvard University. And they won. And so Linda said, wow, that is one way for our kids to grow, to educate themselves and learn how to make a presentation. And Linda, with city funds, created a debate team. And her people, I think a gentleman by the name of Rick Hicks was the supervisor of that particular endeavor. Her people hired Eric Jackson, an English teacher and a prolific debater, and myself to coach the debate team. And we did, and we were able to have a wonderful debate, which Linda came. Mary Majors was one of the judges. She was brilliant in terms of the way she handled things. And that was a very positive experience, a good experience. Unfortunately, the school district was supposed to take it over. And somehow with the interaction and the problem that they had with receivership, that they destroyed the program. But Linda started it. She had a love for children. She had a love for kids getting education. And that's just some of the positive things that she did. And she also liked to make sure that African Americans got their share of the action in terms of contracts and entrepreneurship. very positive. She's not afraid to do something for African Americans. Sometimes you get African Americans in positions of power, then they're afraid to do anything for their own. They don't want to do anything for their own. They rather not do it. They're so afraid of their being rebuked by whites. And some of that happened to Linda. Unfortunately, some of the things that she said were totally taken out of context and misunderstood. It was really, really heartless kind of thing. But she did prove one thing, that she knew her job and she knew what she was doing. And so I have several videos that I want to share with you, and then we're going to analyze those videos and just take a look. But we're raising up the first Black mayor of the city of Harrisburg, the first female mayor of the city of Harrisburg, the brilliant, the intelligent, the beautiful Linda Thompson for mayor. Let's look at this video. Thank you.
You see, the only thing they're looking for is this audit?
Yeah, I mean, this is a mandate by all cities. When you deal in the bond world, you have to have appropriate disclosure so that the bondholders know what kind of risk they're taking. And unfortunately, this is a carryover from the prior administration. And when I came on board, my focus was closing that deficit I had and also working on the recovery plan for the $288 million elephant in the room. And the audit is a function of the Business Administration Department, and it's become the topic of today. When I first got in office back in January, I reached out to the Comptroller, Dan Miller, and asked him to be a part of assisting us in this audit because he has a staff member that he hired after Steve Reed was defeated by me, and he brought that person on board who had been in the city for 15 years. And Mr. Kroboth, who was the acting business administrator, apprised me of Bill Lineberger's expertise and felt that he would be the best and the most appropriate because he had the institutional knowledge. So we reached out to Miller back in January of 2010, asked for his assistance, and he wrote us a correspondence pretty much shaking us down. He wanted a parking space with his name on it. In exchange for that, he wanted us to put, as he put it, quote unquote, the appropriate and obvious positioning of his website on the city's website, and he wanted $75 per every 1.5 hours to retain Lineberger to do work for the city when Lineberger was already on the payroll for the city, and I felt that to be a conflict of interest and quite frankly inappropriate. So I declined that offer. It's no different than if I would ask Bob Kroboth to do additional work and Bob Kroboth's on the payroll and then give Bob an extra $10,000 to do work that I feel he should do as a result of wanting to help the city recover. And so I rejected his proposal, and dialogue continued to go back and forth with Miller and my staff on getting him to be more cooperative, and he took a stance and dug his knees in the sand and wanted money. And even as recently when DCED came in, the Department of Community and Economic Development came in, somehow there was a conversation stirred up with them where Miller wanted $10,000. This latest revelation about wanting to use the money for renovations, it was never cited in his original letter. He just clearly said he wanted that money to be compensated for Lineberger, and I have the document to provide for you. So again, this could have been all resolved. And it wasn't, and like I said, Miller tried to shake us down financially, and I wasn't going to cooperate in that way. So when it came back around this year to suggest DCED pay $10,000 for Lineberger, I intercepted that correspondence and talked to DCED representatives and said, under no way circumstance should we honor what I believe to be an inappropriate type of dealing with Miller. And I stopped DCED from giving him $10,000 to pay Lineberger to do work that I felt that the comptroller could have been working with the city of Harrisburg because we're all on the same financial payroll.
So the reason, just to make sure I'm clear, the reason why this audit was not completed was because of the city controller's office.
Well, he didn't want to cooperate and help us, and he had the expertise to really get in there and do the audit quickly. Our way, which we constantly advocated after we rejected his financial conditions and his perks, was to go out and try and find an accountant, and I did several things. I reached out to the audit committee that's in place. I also reached out to other experts in the community and asked them to look for an accountant I made a request to the Pennsylvania Press Club that we need accountants, and I specifically said to do the audit. So I've reached out to numerous levels of expertise that's in that world. And when I say in that world, in the accounting world, in the CPA world, because it's beyond my scope of expertise. And so again, all those reach outs fell on deaf ears. And so again, it went back to seeing how Miller would be more cooperative in aiding us, since his staff member had been with the city for 15 years and could come right in and get the work done. So the concern with SEC is not just with Harrisburg. They're going all across the country with all these cities who are in financial challenges right now and who may not be properly disclosing information that is mandated of us, to make sure that they're seen as the big overseer of the world with these cities who have these Mooney bonds, and could often get the SEC in trouble for not being the overseers in terms of holding us accountable. But my purpose of getting this done is for bigger reasons, not only to provide for us to be seen as people who respect and carry out our necessary mandates, but also for the bond world to be able to have full disclosure in their risk-taking with us, and for the opportunity to make sure that we are being under the guidelines of full disclosure, so that we can have future borrowing opportunities. That's my main reason for getting this done, and for transparency purposes.
So you hit it on the nose. So that's the reason, pretty much in a nutshell, why it wasn't completed. Now, why wasn't it necessarily disclosed to these bond investors that, hey, it's not completed for this very reason?
It's disclosed through the audit.
Oh, it is.
And when the
Okay.
audit's not done, then that's the failure of disclosure. So again, like I said, this is a carryover from the former administration, and I've been doing all I can do for the last 13 or 14 months, trying to get people in that area that could help us, because we just don't have the staff in that department, and there's no excuse, and I haven't made it as an excuse. I've been reaching out to various entities to try to get someone in here to help us do this audit.
How does this affect the city as a whole now?
Well, we've been able to still get our grant dollars. We certainly have no borrowing capability, and it's not because we haven't done the audit. It's because we're in this financial crisis right now, trying to come up out of it. But I'm optimistic that we'll get this resolved, with or without Miller. Now that it's been made public, hopefully we'll get those individuals who I've reached out to really think about this more of a priority. This is our city. And the mayor has been looking and reaching out to a number of professional experts, asking them to come inside the city and help us. And unfortunately, we haven't got that kind of help. We have some people who are helping us out, but as far as this audit, we just haven't been able to get people to come in and do what I've asked. And I'm not the god of the city. I'm the mayor. And I am never going to make anyone believe that I can do all this by myself. This is our problem. And the more people look at this as our problem, the more they'll be willing to help.
And city controller told me that, you reached out to him to see if he could help in this situation.
This is the second time I've reached out to him. I reached out to him in a letter. Actually, I reached out to him through the former BA, and he responded to us in writing, and I'll give you that document. And in this document, he said he would be willing to help on these conditions. He wanted money, he wanted a parking space, and he wanted an appropriate and an obvious position on our website for his website as the controller. And I rejected those conditions. And then I just reached out to him again in a letter, and I made that public today. So long before the Patriot News wrote this editorial, no excuses, I wrote a letter last night to him appealing to his high conscience, reminding him that I was not going to be able to meet these financial conditions and these perks. And so,
and just for the record, I talked to the city controller, and he told me that he actually reached out to the administration, reached out to you about, hey, do you need help completing this audit in January?
He's reached out in the form of a letter, and as I said, dated January 27th of 2010, requesting financial compensation in return for Bill Lineberger's assistance. This is all in writing. He reached out in the form of wanting extra perks for parking space and also visibility on our website. That's how he reached out. Since then, we have not heard from him, other than the recent time I talked to you about in my earlier dialogue with you, and that was through DCED, wanting DCED to compensate Bill Lineberger. And this is the recent reaching out, still wanting financial compensation for Bill Lineberger's services. And I intercepted that and rejected that financial proposal. So yes, he's reached out, but on financial conditions. And I think those conditions are inappropriate. And I quite frankly felt that they were a shakedown, inappropriate behavior. And so, yeah, he's reaching out now, and even now, as recently as today, he's even saying publicly that he wants to help, but he's added new conditions. And the new conditions is he wants me to be able to give him executive branch authority through the automatic payroll deposits. And I'm not willing to do that because the FOP sued the city, sued the comptroller, and sued the treasurer and won. They won through the Labor Relations Board, indicating and charging an unfair labor practice. And so the order has been given. He had a 20-day to effectuate the order, and he did not meet the 20-day effectuated order. And so now he's in violation, and he has an attorney who has made an appeal to make exceptions, believing that he can escape this labor relations order by trying to come back and attaching negotiations with me to alleviate me from any further lawsuits. And I'm not willing to do it. I'm not willing to do it. A law has been violated. He violated it. This is all in writing. I had those documents to give you as well. And so all I want him to do is do a clean support for the administration with no conditions and no strings attached.
When do you think the audit's going to be completed?
Oh, I'm hoping as soon as we can get somebody who's honorable in here that doesn't want to shake the mayor down, we can get it done. And this was like yesterday I've been requesting it. I've been requesting this for the last 13 months through the community, through the audit committee, of specific members who would not deny that I've reached out to them. I reached out through the community, through the press club, when I made a public announcement asking for accountants. And so I'm going to continue to toll the road and ask for those individuals who are out there and have the expertise to help the city get this audit done.
And last, well, I'm assuming then if the city controller, if those perks, since you're not agreeing to meet those perks,
precisely,
then it may not be him helping out.
Well, that's what I said. We're going to get it done with or without him.
And the last thing, of course, Chuck Ardo, why did he step down?
Well, I'm not going to get into personal matters. I don't know why Chuck Ardo stepped down. I wish him well. And we already have viable candidates to step into that position.
Okay.
Linda Thompson, former mayor of the city of Harrisburg. And these videos that we are using show you how articulate and how intelligent Linda Thompson really was. And the interesting thing about it is that she's on top of these issues. She understands these issues, and she was a great mayor. She did a great job for the city of Harrisburg. I wish her well. We're trying to reach out to Linda. I'm hoping I'll be able to set up an interview and then bring her on the show where we can interview her directly. Linda, if you're listening in, we're here at 717-724-7105. We'd love to have you on our show to be able to talk with you, get an idea what you're doing now. I had heard that you were in the ministry of the gospel and maybe doing some other things. So we very much would love to talk with you and to see where you are today. But we did have the opportunity for 4 years to have Linda Thompson under her leadership lead the city of Harrisburg through some very difficult times in which state sometimes were helpful and sometimes was not so helpful. I mean, that's a fact. But we want to, okay, we're going to roll another video because we want to give you a real idea of the kind of things that Linda went through, some of her brilliance and some of the things that she did. All right? Okay.
The last hour, the Pennsylvania State Legislature gave final approval to a bill that would force the city of Harrisburg into receivership. It gives the governor the power to name a manager who would take over the city's finances. The action comes after the city voted to file for bankruptcy last week. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett is expected to sign that receivership bill into law tomorrow. Last week, the Harrisburg City Council, over the objections of Mayor Linda Thompson, filed for bankruptcy. Mayor Thompson joins us on the phone now from Harrisburg. Ma'am, welcome to Bottom Line. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for for having me.
Mayor Thompson, the legislation that the state Senate passed today is a response to an unprecedented rejection this summer by Harrisburg City Council of a state financial recovery plan. That was called Act 47. The plan called for selling the city's trash incinerator, and the overhaul and the expansion of that have contributed millions to the city's debt. And it also called for selling parking facilities to help pay down that $300 million. Would that have been enough to make a dent?
Well, there were two issues here. We not only have a bundled incinerator that we co-sign 100% behind at $310 million, but we also have severe structural deficits, meaning we have tremendous amount of federal and state and regional mandates, and they're unfunded.
Right.
So that has caused year after year major holes in our annual budgets.
Yep.
So there's two scenarios here, and so when you ask the question, with the selling of the incinerator and the leasing, we wouldn't be selling our garages. We would be leasing those garages, and we just recently got a valuation that the valuation comes out to about $215 million for a 30-year lease, and certainly it goes a long way in bringing down that $310 million noose we have around our neck.
Right.
So it would have been it's a major impact on getting the city out from underneath this debacle of incinerator.
Mayor Thompson, we have about a minute left in this segment. The residents in your city, they already pay among the highest trash disposal rates in the country, but the incinerator doesn't generate enough to pay off its debt. How do you deal with that?
Well, the Act 47 plan was calling for a number of scenarios to help address it, where there was global shared pain. For instance, the county government is also close to $100 and some odd million on the hook for that $310 million. They bring their trash to that incinerator. What we were calling for was for them to raise their tipping fees to a point where it would be some equity in the shared pain. We were also calling for the state to be a cheerleader and a champion and becoming a payment in lieu of property tax, because a large percentage of their property taxes are tax exempt, which we get no revenue from. So we were asking the state to contribute to a pilot program, which is called payment in lieu of property taxes. We were also calling for churches, nonprofits, colleges, and universities also to get into the pilot program, as well as scaling back tremendously in my government, which is I've already done that in 2010.
Yes.
Scaled back close to 125 jobs in order to be able to help us to continue to contribute to bringing down our expenditures and our general fund budget to help address those structural deficit.
And Your Honor, as I mentioned, she's been gracious enough to say she would stay with us through the commercial break. Harrisburg Mayor Linda Thompson. And one of the points of contention, Mayor Thompson, was what happened last week when the city council decided to file for bankruptcy, and you contend that the council did not have the authority to do so. But on Monday, there was a status conference before federal bankruptcy judge Mary France. An attorney representing the council majority said that the council is the governing body of the city of Harrisburg. How do you respond? Is the mayor just a titular head of a municipality beholden to the council?
Well, first of all, I don't acknowledge this attorney because the mayor has to sign off on consent of hiring attorneys to represent the city. That's why we're challenging what we call procedural errors in council's ways. We are operating on the third-class charter rule under a Plan A, which calls for a strong mayor-council type of governing. So the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city and handles all day-to-day operations. I'm not going to get into the legality discussions about this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than our filing, and that is, we'll let Judge France rule at the end of the day as to really who is the governing body.
Okay.
And whether their filing was illegal. What has happened here is that council's immaturity and their inaction and this hiring of this illegal attorney and this illegal bankruptcy filing ultimately has put us in the position of national disgrace and embarrassment because, one, we're being taken over by the state, and it was an unnecessary move against the state. And I lobbied hard to appeal to both the House and the Senate.
Yes.
That's controlled by the Republican Party, who have the votes to do whatever they want to do, and the state is sovereign, and they have some jurisdiction over us. But my goal is to continue to try to move my Act 47 plan forward because it does have some very viable solutions in it. If the council wants it their way, at least 4 members anyway. They're not representing the majority of the.
But Mayor Thompson, if I might ask, in the interim, then until this hearing before the bankruptcy judge, which I believe is November 23rd. 23rd. Is an outside mediator going to be brought in to try to resolve the differences between the parties?
Well, not to my knowledge at this time. The Senate Bill 1151 was passed today, and ultimately the governor's going to sign it. And from there is a 30-day window for council and the mayor to get into the room, as which I have been trying for the last 6 months.
Okay.
To make sure that we ultimately get this plan approved, because I don't want a receivership in my city. I lobbied all the way to the very last hour to make sure that I got more of an authoritative role in this so-called receivership takeover. Okay. So hopefully council's lights will come on and they will realize that if they don't do this in the room with me within this 30-day time frame, that they'll be able to be no more than a lame duck council body, and at the same time just doing nothing but signing legislation that deals with stop signs.
And Mayor Thompson, we have about 30 seconds left. Does Harrisburg have the cash to make payroll and to pay bondholders after December 31st?
Well, first of all, we've never defaulted on any of our general obligations, so quite frankly, the city is not technically in bankruptcy. And thank God the judge stood down from having us to acknowledge to the world that we're in bankruptcy. So until the judge tells me that this bankruptcy filing is legal, I am not in bankruptcy. And we are paying our bills. We're still open for business. My police are on the streets, my firemen are on the streets, and so is my sanitation workers, and we're still doing business, and people are still doing ribbon cuttings with me. So my state's capital is not in bankruptcy.
The mayor of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Linda Thompson, joining us on the phone from her office at Harrisburg City Hall. Your Honor, thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate
Mayor Linda Thompson, lifting up the issues that confronted our city during her tenure as mayor. One thing you can certainly hear is just how articulate this woman was, and how on top of each and every issue she was. She was on top of it. She knew what she was talking about. And they were not always in agreement with city council. This whole issue of who's in charge, a third-class city, the mayor is in charge, not city council. You have a strong mayor type of government, which is a city charter, and she was absolutely right. That's her responsibility. But we had other issues that came up. Some were significant and some were not significant at all. Some issues that were exaggerated. There were comments that were made by the mayor that were solely misinterpreted by a lot of people. And I think that some of those issues that were raised may have cost her the election, the re-election. She did serve a full term, 4 terms, and for my money was one of our greatest mayors. Now there was an incident in the streets of Harrisburg that we're going to talk about, because some things that were attributed to Mayor Thompson, which she was not given an opportunity really to deal with. So we're going to lift up a third video at this time, and then we're going to discuss those issues. Thank you.
But guess what? Nobody's doing anything. Everybody's taking it, lying down. And why is that fair? It's not fair. It's not fair. Thompson, you're not free. Do what's right and leave us see. Thompson, you're not God. What you are is one fraud. Stand together. I'm 29 years old.
And town or township?
I live right down the street, man, Harrisburg. Right down from the governor's mansion. Look at what's going on in the world. In Iran, in Egypt. Yeah, it might not be that big, but it's the same principle. It is the same principle. And if you do not fight for what you believe in, then nothing will happen.
What do you believe in?
I believe in equal rights.
What's equal rights?
I believe in everything.
Were you here a couple years ago when Stephen R. Reed.
We're not talking about Stephen R.
Here we are
Reed.
now. You know why?
Yeah, you are
I'll
right
tell you
now.
why.
You are right now.
You don't have the slightest idea what you're fighting against.
You're absolutely
You are
right. I
out
guess
here with
you're
a
right.
bunch of these buffoons and nuts. They don't know why.
Look, you're one person.
Would you like me called homophobe?
What?
Am I
He's a
not the only
homophobe,
person?
an anti-Semite.
I am the voice
She's an
of the voiceless.
anti-Semite.
What's anti-Semite?
She hates Jews.
How do you know that?
She made a statement.
How do you know that?
Why
How do
hasn't
you
she
know that?
come out and said she never
What's an
said it?
anti-Semite?
An anti-Semite,
What's
someone
an
that calls
anti-Semite?
Jew money.
Oh,
You
yeah?
know she's right. She called Dan Miller nothing but a nasty homosexual.
Were you there?
Why? I called.
Where are you there?
I called.
You weren't there, were
I
you?
called.
Who do you speak
Why?
to? People that are here or old Stephen Reed holdouts? Stephen Reed right now is devising a plan to have Linda thrown out of office and to bring someone else back into office to set his agenda forward. Once his agenda gets set forward, we will be back to the same old mess. These people here, there's nothing else we can do for them. That's the bottom line. Stephen R. Reed did this, Linda Thompson didn't.
Are you the one who organized this?
Well, I'm the one who created the event.
Yes, yes, yes.
On the page, you know, the event page.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
You're very
much.
welcome.
It's a pleasure meeting
Talk
you.
to me on Facebook.
Okay, I will.
When in disgrace and fortune in men's eyes, I'll alone be weak, my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. Shakespeare. Sad, 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 sad. You saw a situation there where there was a mass demonstration put together against Linda Thompson, but you had Linda's supporters out there working the crowd and trying to bring a little bit of understanding to this crowd. It's sad. I heard one gentleman said that Linda Thompson was against Jews, or she said, remember, Linda was the first African-American to be elected mayor of the city of Harrisburg, and white folks just were not accustomed to having black in that kind of leadership position. And they came after Linda. They came after her from the very, very start. And it's sad, because whenever you take on a position of responsibility, like mayor of a city, governor, president, you're not there just to represent one individual. You're there to represent all people. And I'm quite certain that's exactly what Linda tried to do. But unfortunately, being under a lot of stress and a lot of tension during that particular time, with a lot of issues, state wanted to put the city into receivership, the loss of millions and millions of dollars with some of the bad financial decisions that came prior to her becoming the mayor of the city. She had to deal with all this. And sometimes when you're under a lot of stress, you say some things that you don't quite mean the way you said, and people totally misunderstand what you said. And I think that was the case with her. I don't really believe that when she made her comments about people in Perry County, that she was really talking about everybody in Perry County. She was just talking about some individual who were carpetbaggers might be coming in to bring about some changes. And that's sad. because I don't think she meant that. Perry County is one of the most beautiful counties in the country as far as I'm concerned, and with some of the most beautiful people. And it's sad they had that misunderstanding and it couldn't be worked out, where the mayor of Duncannon and the mayor of Harrisburg could get together as individuals and try to work out things. And the sad thing with Linda taking on responsibility for a city with close to 50 million people, and with issue after issue after issue. And one of the things she was saying is that because it's a capital city, there's land, there are buildings that exist within the capital city, which is that's uncollectible. You can't collect taxes on the capital. So there's revenue that's being lost by the city, and trying to get enough revenue to keep the city afloat and to deal with many issues and deal with all the personalities and the various ethnic groups. In fact, today, I think there are even more of a variety of ethnic groups within the city of Harrisburg than there was then. I think that's a fact. But she did everything she could to be able to try to make things positive, to try to do some good things for the city. And she was favored by many people. And a lot of people supported her. But unfortunately, in a reoccurring election, she did not get the support of the people. But Linda's still around. I understand that, as I said, I understand that I heard, I don't really know. And I better say that she may be preaching the gospel or doing some things. I know she had run for public office again. That didn't work out. But I don't think you've heard the last of Linda Thompson. She's a very talented individual. She's a very skilled individual. She's a very bright and very intelligent individual. And there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And we're in a capital city, and we're in an era where we have a lot of challenges that are going on today. Here in our country, we just had a national election on which gentleman Joe Biden was elected president of the United States. And then we had our former president that perpetuated what is called the big lie, that he won the election, even though he got 7 million less votes and less electoral college votes. He didn't win anything, which is sad. But what he's doing is dividing our nation. But under circumstances like that, we need people who are bright, people who are talented, people who are concerned about what happens to our nation in leadership position. Now, one thing about Joe selected Kamala Harris, who is an African-American female, to become vice president of the United States. And there are other positions out there. There are things out there that can be done. And we need talented individuals that care about the public. People care about the public. You understand what I'm saying? That want things to happen and want things to happen now and want things to happen differently. And someone who cares about all people. And I really believe that's Linda Thompson, who cares about people who are Jews, who are Polish, who are Irish, who are Indian, who are Asian, who are African, who are African American. People care about all the people and raise up those people. Care about people who live in rural areas, people who live in urban areas. We need all that. And I know Linda has worked diligently to support all people. She's had personal fights within her own life and with her own family, just trying to raise up her brother, get her brother out of prison after he spent so many years wrongly accused, so many years in prison and in jail. And just thank God that he had a sister that cared enough about him to raise up them. And I saw the concern for young people with her, and I'll say it again, is that for a couple of years, I was involved in an after-school program of debate team. And this was a special project put together by Linda Thompson. Linda Thompson felt that debate was a real way that young people, regardless of color, could learn how to present themselves, to learn how to think, learn how to respond to issues and problems, and do some good. So I saw the concern for education there with her. I know she's concerned about education. I know she's concerned about people. I know she's concerned about all people, and that's just a fact. Linda was concerned about all people, but not everybody. Not everybody. Everybody understand that. And we got other young people coming along. We got young high school kids who are trying to grow and who might be interested in politics. And they can take a lesson from a role model such as Linda Thompson. And whether they're African American or Indian or Asian or Polish or Jewish or Irish or Italian, they should know that you can make it if you try. That if Linda Thompson can be elected mayor of the city of Harrisburg, why not you? Why not you be elected to a position such as mayor or city council? But understand that you don't just jump in and run. You don't just jump a hoop, go over the hoop and decide you want to be mayor without understanding that there's a process, that understand that there's a whole thing that you need to learn about city government and about politics. And Linda learned that. She learned that, and she learned it well. I look favorably back on those days, and I can remember back in those days when we, for example, were doing the debate thing. When I say the debate thing, when we are tutoring young people in debate, and she was sitting in the office, quite proud of our young people, and rightfully so. They did a good job, did a great job. Well, hey, we got another election, and the gentleman that defeated Linda Thompson and became mayor of the city of Harrisburg for the next 4 years has been defeated himself. Sometimes what goes around comes around. But Pat Booth was defeated in the Democratic primary, and Wanda Williams, who has been on city council for quite some time, who worked very closely with Linda, won the Democratic primary in the city of Harrisburg. The likelihood, just because of the political structure within the city, is that then she will be the next mayor. Good news is she's a good person, first of all. It's just to say that, we need to give her support because she is a wonderful person. But also, we need to understand that she would be the second African American to hold that position. Wanda Williams is a great individual, but she has to run against in the general election. She had to run against the Republican challenger. Possibly she win, but there's nothing sealed in concrete. You got to run. You got to get the most votes. And in doing that, you got to understand what you have to put together. But one thing I have to say, and I say it again, is that African-American females in the area of politics are getting it done. I'm telling you, many of our major cities have elected African-American leadership. For example, the city of York, for a 2 terms, had a very capable African-American mayor. And, but it's open, and the people have the right and have the authority and have the will to try to hire the individual that they want for that position. We got a lot of issues to deal with. We have a lot of issues today. And I'm hoping that people like Linda Thompson will continue to stay involved and continue to do some good things. Harrisburg has a serious crime problem. And one of the issues that Linda was concerned about was returning police officers to walk in the beat. But there's a very, very, very serious crime problem available. Shootings and murders are taking place in the city of Harrisburg. And it's not just Harrisburg, it's throughout the nation. And so we need a program. And I understand that there's some really positive things going on at the Boys and Girls Club between the police and the community on some positive race relation things. We need police in the community. We need police interacting with the people. And that's one of the things that Linda pushed. See, Linda grew up in Uptown. She grew up in the city. And one of the things that she believed in was having the police officers, some of them could walk the beat and interacting with people within the community. And some of that got done during her tenure. Well, I'm hoping that also that Wanda Williams would consider some of those things too. The other thing is housing. We have a lot of deteriorating housing. We have a lot of old housing with old wiring, electricity, plumbing problems, issues. And with this virus, a lot of people had to stay home. A lot of people were not able to raise money and take care of the repairs that need to be done. And I'm hoping that people will volunteer and people like Linda will continue to lift up our community and do some things to bring about change. There is a need for rehabilitation. There's one organization called Habitat for Humanity, an organization that Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States from Georgia, was heavily involved in. They're all over the world, but we need some housing rehabilitation. I was the head of an organization called CHIP, Chester Home Improvement Project, when I was in Chester, Pennsylvania, where we would go around and volunteer and do home repairs and painting and different things that need to be done with the community. Well, we need a CHIP today. We could use a conservation sure, because people need to make money also and be able to pay for this kind of stuff. So in Harrisburg, in spite of our state government, that virus set us back because, you can't really hire folks to start work doing a virus. We lost jobs. We lost our ability to really connect. Well, hey, we lift up the life and the legacy of one of Harrisburg's greatest and more accomplished and more capable mayors, Linda Thompson. And we're going to reach out for Linda because I'm hoping and praying that we'll be able to at some point get Linda on this show so we can talk with her about what's going on today and get her advice and counsel on this. And remember, we still, Richard James Show, and we still need your support. We're still down at Lebanon Farmers Market, down at 35 South 8th Street in the city of Lebanon. We got some really fantastic new items in, authentic African art that you would not believe. We have some new pictures coming in, original art out of Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. We got all of that going for us, and all we need is you. And folks, I appreciate my friends coming back to say hello, but when you come back to say hello, that won't keep me in business. We need you to buy something. If you said, I've heard a lot of folks, I support Black businesses, but do you? If you can't buy a bar of soap or a tube of oil or a piece of art, you're gonna get a gift. It helps us when you buy and support us. We love you very much. We wanna see you. We wanna interact with you. Come by and take a look and see if there's something that we can do for you in terms of our business. And also the Lebanon Farmers Market has a tremendous food court. They have a new butcher that's there. They sell poultry, they sell beef and pork. They sell vegetables, they got produce, they got anything you want. You will find there at the Lebanon County Farmers Market. And you also find what is called African Paradise. They look for African Paradise and look for your friend and your brother, Richard James. Again, we had a few technical problems today, but we continue to push on. I want to thank Chris for his patience and his capabilities in putting this thing together. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. This is your neighbor and your friend with much love and understanding, Richard James Show. Take care now. God bless.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. Our African and our African American programs are set up to educate you on what's going on in this world. And thank you for taking out the time to listen. Let us hear from you sometime also. So this is your neighbor and your friend signing off. Until I see you again next week and hear from you again next week. So long. God bless.